All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. I don't think that anyone had it on their bingo cards that when the Miami Heat took the floor last night at home against the Washington Wizards, that we would see center Bam Adebayo put his name in the NBA's record books. And that is because after Adebayo's 83-point performance last night against the Washington Wizards, only the great Wilt Chamberlain has scored more points in an NBA game than him. Adebayo got it going early last night as he outscored the Wizards in the first quarter by himself. Washington had 29 points, while Bam had 31. He had 43 points at the half, and he had 62 at the end of three quarters. Bam's night overall looked like this. He was 20 of 43 shooting, 36 of 43 from the free throw line, and then he was 7 of 22 from downtown. Bam just got going early. He got in that zone, and he just never look back. And, no disrespect, but he picked one of the worst teams in the NBA to have this historic night against. Only the Indiana Pacers and Sacramento Kings have had a worse season than the Washington Wizards so far. They're well on their way to their third consecutive 50-loss season. They've got a chance to actually make it three straight 60-loss seasons, okay? And only the Utah Jazz are allowing more points per game this season than Washington. You saw it. It was just a lack of defensive prowess for the most part of this game by the Washington Wizards. I mean, you look at it, and they basically waited until late in the third quarter to make an defensive adjustment on Bam Adebayo. He was taking Alex Sarr to school for the most part. He was too quick for Alex Sarr on the perimeter. His game close to the basket was working as well. And for anybody who's ever played basketball or anybody who's ever played a sport, sometimes you just simply know when it is your night. And that was Bam Adebayo last night. He was just in one of those zones. So now you look at Bam, and he joins the great Kobe Bryant and the great Wilt Chamberlain as the only players in NBA history to have scored at least 80 points in a game. Of course, 20 years ago, we saw Kobe get the Toronto Raptors for 81. And then, of course, many moons ago, matter of fact, 1962 to be exact, we saw Wilt Chamberlain get the New York Knicks for 100 points in a contest. And, it's been a big question mark today, and it started last night as far as where does Bam's performance rank. Some people are going to say, well, you know what, 36 free throws, it was against the Wizards, this, that, and the third. I mean, you look at it, usually when you're going to see a guy have a 60-plus point night in the NBA, usually they've taken their fair share of free throws in that one. You look at Kobe. Kobe only hit 18 free throws against the Raptors. It was mainly jump shots that he was taking care of his business in that one. And then when Wilt had his 100-point night, he was 28 of 32 from the free throw line. He made 36 field goals. And of course, in those days, there was no three-point shot. But the bottom line is, I don't think that Bam Adebayo should be apologetic for anything. I mean, 83 points is 83 points, regardless of how you slice it. And at the end of the day, he still had to make the shots that he made. And regardless of who your opponent is, you got to go out there and take care of your business. DJ Sackfly, what is going on to you? Happy Wednesday. You're saying if 80s was easy, everyone would do it. Absolutely. Bam did it well. Like I said before, sometimes it's just your night. Sometimes you're simply in that zone. And like I said before, it's not his fault that the Wizards are one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. And it's not his fault that the Wizards failed to make an adjustment on him until late in this game. That's a pride factor. Okay. And honestly, Washington has been a bad team not just for this season, not just for last night, but for a while. I know that they're called the Washington Wizards, but at some point we might want to refer to them as the Washington Generals for the way that they play. All right, but nonetheless, you look at it, and at the end of the day, getting back to the Wizards, they should be embarrassed by this because usually now in the NBA we see players post game, from each team shaking hands. That was not the case. The Wizards just simply walked off the court last night. Like I said, there's nothing to hang your head high about if you allow your opponent to have such a historic night, regardless of who the person is. So you look at it, and in NBA history, there's been 16 times where we've seen players get 70 or more in a game. Six have come this decade. And it's one of those we're going to see bigger scoring outputs in this current era of basketball. No disrespect to Bam, but defensive basketball is not a strength of the current NBA like it was once upon a time. And the reason why I say that, listen, there was a time where a guy like Bam, if he had gotten it going, not only would there have been a switch on him as far as the defender, not only would there have been a lot of eyes on him when he got the ball. If he drove to the basket, there might have been a price to pay. Okay, but nonetheless, granted, the game has changed. But at the end of the day, you still tip your cap to this because it's still a rarity. All right. Like I said, if you're Bam Adebayo, you should definitely be proud and hold your head up high about what you did. It's one of those, I think, for the quote unquote skeptics out there, or critics, if you will, of what we saw Bam do last night. I guess it's because a guy like Bam Adebayo shouldn't be getting these types of games. Typically, when you think about these big scoring outputs throughout NBA history, you think about guys who are scorers. And of course, for Bam, he's a career 16-point per game scorer. He's averaging 20 points per game this season. But nonetheless, sometimes it is just your night. Okay. And you start off, you hit a couple of shots, and that hoop looks as big as the Atlantic Ocean. Okay. And it was just one of those things. Everything was falling for Bam last night. And like I said, all you can do at this point is tip your cap to that young man for what he did. You're looking at the bigger picture, though. Okay, because aside from this game, we saw Miami put up 150 points last night. Obviously, 83 of those came on the back of one Bam Adebayo. But you're looking at the Heat, no pun intended. They are one of the hottest teams in the Eastern Conference right now. We have seen Miami win their last six games. They are now in the top six in the Eastern Conference. And of course, we heard recent comments from Bam talking about, hey, I'm tired of being in a play in. Well, of course, the way to get out of the play in is to finish in the top six in your conference, which is a place where the Heat are currently. On top of that, okay, one of the bigger things for me last night in this performance by Bam Adebayo, the Heat did it without Tyler Hero, without Norman Powell, and without Andrew Wiggins. Okay, three of their better players. So Bam just took this thing over, put this team on his back, and he wouldn't be denied. And it's one of those where you see how respected that he is by his teammates and that community, because you look at how his teammates embraced him when that game was over, how they were there on the floor during his post game interviews and stuff like that, and he wanted to share that moment with them. This is one of those where, you know what, sometimes the guys just get in the zone in a sport. Whether it's a perfect game in baseball, sometimes you might see guys have a 3 or 4 home run night in baseball, a 50 or 60 point night in the NBA, whatever. The bottom line is sometimes you just simply get in that zone. And that was Bam Adebayo last night. The floor belonged to him. He couldn't be denied. And again, I'm very happy for this young man because at the end of the day, his name will always be in the record books for the not only just the Miami Heat, but of course the NBA as a whole. And like I said before, if you're Miami, you definitely are hopeful that this win could help propel you to bigger and better things coming down the stretch. And I know that Bam isn't a scorer per se, but nonetheless, this is now going to give all of the opponents of the Heat something else to think about coming down the stretch, something else to think about in this postseason, especially if Miami is healthy come playoff time. But nonetheless, like I said before, Bam Adebayo has put his name in the record books. Some people might have soured on it. They might have something negative to say. But at the end of the day, 83 points is 83 points. You don't apologize for it. He went out there and took care of his business. And now his name is always going to be in the record books. And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. It's probably going to happen. I haven't paid attention to see if there was an announcement made or not. But nonetheless, I would imagine that his jersey and probably his uniform, sneakers, everything is probably going to be sent to the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield because, again, 83 points don't come around the block that often in the National Basketball Association, and that is what we saw Bam Adebayo accomplish last night. But, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Sack Fly, what's going on, my man? As always, appreciate the support. And you know what? Keep on tuning in because I still got plenty to talk about in the sports world. But as always, man, the support is much, much appreciated. For all you folks out there, if you like what you heard and saw on this podcast, you know what to do. Just hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. And like I always say, it's greatly appreciated. Also, if you are on the X, formerly known as Twitter, you can check me out anytime at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you give me that follow, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. That also goes for Instagram, and you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. And also, if you are on Facebook, definitely be sure to check out the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports groups going on social media. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.